In 1200 BCE, the world was on fire. Within the span of a single generation, nearly every major civilization of the Eastern Mediterranean collapsed. The Mycenaean Greeks, the Hittite Empire, the kingdoms of Syria and the Levant. The trade networks that had connected Egypt to Mesopotamia for centuries simply stopped. Cities were abandoned, writing disappeared, and for nearly 500 years, the ancient world descended into a dark age from which it almost never recovered. To understand the Bronze Age collapse, you must first understand the Bronze Age itself. For nearly 2,000 years, from roughly 3000 to 1200 BCE, a network of interconnected empires dominated the Eastern Mediterranean. At its height, this network included the Egyptians, the Hittites in Anatolia, the Mycenaeans in Greece, the Minoans on Crete, the Babylonians and Assyrians in Mesopotamia, and the wealthy city-states of the Levantine coast. These were not isolated kingdoms. They traded copper and tin from mines thousands of miles apart to forge bronze. They exchanged grain, olive oil, wine, textiles, and luxury goods. Their kings wrote to one another in Akkadian cuneiform, the diplomatic language of the age. They were, in every meaningful sense, the first globalized civilization. And then, within a single human lifetime, it all fell apart. Around 1177 BCE, the evidence points to a cascade of catastrophes so severe that no civilization could withstand them alone. Earthquakes leveled cities across the region. Climate records, preserved in ancient pollen and cave formations, reveal a prolonged drought that lasted for decades, devastating agriculture and triggering widespread famine. With food supplies collapsing, populations began to move, and some to attack. Into this chaos came the Sea Peoples, a mysterious confederation of maritime raiders whose origins remain one of the great unsolved puzzles of archaeology. They attacked the coasts of Egypt, the Levant, and Anatolia with devastating effect. The Hittite capital of Hattusa was burned and abandoned. The Mycenaean palace centers at Mycenae, Pylos, and Tiryns were destroyed. The wealthy trading city of Ugarit was sacked and never rebuilt. Only Egypt, under Pharaoh Ramses III, managed to beat back the Sea Peoples in a desperate naval and land battle, depicted on the walls of his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu. But Egypt was so weakened by the effort that it never recovered its former power. This discovery challenges our understanding of how civilizations fall. The Bronze Age collapse was not a single event. No single invasion, no single drought, no single plague brought it about. It was a systems collapse. Each crisis, climate change, famine, earthquake, migration, warfare, amplified the others, creating a downward spiral from which recovery was nearly impossible. For centuries after, the international trade routes that had once circulated goods and ideas across the known world simply vanished. The ability to write, the hallmark of the Bronze Age palace economies, disappeared in many regions. Greece entered a 400-year dark age. The balance of power in the ancient world shifted permanently, making way for the rise of new civilizations. The Phoenicians, the Philistines, and eventually classical Greece and Rome. The Bronze Age collapse reminds us that civilization is not a permanent state. Even the most sophisticated, interconnected empires can unravel when enough pressures converge. The same trade networks that enriched the Bronze Age world also made it fragile. A disruption in one corner of the system could ripple outward until the entire structure gave way. In 1177 BCE, the ancient world ended. It would take centuries for something new to rise from its ashes. Like, comment, and subscribe for more archaeological wonders.